This Miss Kissy Learning Adventure examines the 3 different rockets made by Elon Musk and SpaceX.
E is in the yard, waiting for you. He wants to show you all the rockets Elon Musk and SpaceX are launching from Earth.
Okay, tell him we'll be right there.
There is a new rocket Elon Musk is testing, and I want to show it to you. Let's go inside the spaceship so I can set the controls so we can leave Earth and go into space.
Daddy said you were going to show us some rockets.
There are 3 different rockets I want to show you. Here we are in space, and there is your Earth.
Our Earth is a beautiful blue, E.
Yes, that's because Earth has a lot of oceans and rivers and bayous and lakes. Earth has more water than land. To get spacecrafts above Earth's atmosphere, you have to use a rocket. We will look at the rockets that can bring things to space. But first, let me tell you some things about rockets. A rocket has 2 parts, or 2 stages. The first stage is called the booster. The booster has the engines that launch the rocket into space. The second stage is what the rocket is carrying into space. There is a rocket called Falcon 9, and it's carrying a spacecraft called Dragon on top. Falcon 9 and the spacecraft Dragon are made by Elon Musk and his company SpaceX. There is Falcon 9 and the Dragon spacecraft carrying supplies to the International Space Station. Here is a close-up view of the International Space Station. The International Space Station was built by many different companies working together. Astronauts from many different countries live and work on the International Space Station.
E, I see the International Space Station, but what are all those other little satellites circling so close to the Earth?
Those are Starlink satellites. Those are very small satellites made by Elon Musk and SpaceX and put into orbit by Falcon 9. The Falcon 9 rocket carries many different Starlink satellites at one time. On their way to a low Earth orbit, the Starlink satellites look like a string or a line.
What do Starlink satellites do, E?
They bring the internet service to any place in the world that cannot get internet service. The Starlink satellites orbiting the Earth are called the Starlink network. Sometimes the Starlink network brings internet service to places who only need it temporarily.
Who would only need temporary service, E?
Places that have had a hurricane, or maybe that need temporary service like California where they have the wildfires. There is Falcon 9 and Dragon bringing astronauts to the International Space Station.
Why did Elon Musk call the rocket Falcon 9, E?
The Falcon 9's first stage or booster has 9 engines that launch it into space.
I see the reason for the 9 now, E, but what about the name Falcon?
It is thought Elon Musk chose the name Falcon because of a movie, Star Wars. In the movie, the fastest spacecraft was called Millennium Falcon.
But isn't there a bird called Falcon also, E?
Yes, a falcon called the peregrine falcon is the fastest thing in the animal kingdom. This falcon can swoop down on what it is hunting at over 200 miles an hour.
E, that looks like a car with a driver.
Yes, it is a red Tesla Roadster and a driver circling the sun. That's not a real astronaut in the car, though. It's a dummy dressed in a spacesuit. The dummy is called Starman.
E. How did the red Tesla Roadster and Starman get into space?
The red Tesla and Starman got into space atop a rocket. This was not the Falcon 9, though. This was a new rocket Elon Musk and SpaceX had made. This new rocket was much more powerful than Falcon 9 and was called Falcon Heavy.
Tell us about the Falcon Heavy, E.
The Falcon Heavy was made by putting 3 Falcon 9 boosters together. The Falcon 9 had 9 engines, so the Falcon Heavy was 3 Falcon 9s, so it had 27 engines. The Falcon Heavy is much more powerful than the Falcon 9, so it can carry a much larger spacecraft into space. The larger the spacecraft, the more supplies or even astronauts it can carry into space.
Tell us more about the Tesla car and Starman, E.
In 2018, Elon Musk was doing the first test of the Falcon Heavy. To make sure it could lift a spacecraft into space, it had to have a spacecraft in its second stage or something heavy like a spacecraft.
Yes, but why did Elon Musk put a Tesla car and Starman in the second stage of the Falcon Heavy instead of a spacecraft, E?
Spacecrafts are expensive, and this was the first test of the Falcon Heavy, and Elon Musk wasn't sure how it would perform. The car was an 8-year-old Tesla that belonged to Elon Musk, and he thought he would rather lose that than a spacecraft. The rocket Falcon Heavy worked as Elon Musk had hoped. The Falcon Heavy and the car and Starman got above the Earth's atmosphere. Then Falcon Heavy shut down its engines in the booster and disconnected from the second stage. The first stage then started its return to Earth. As gravity started pulling the booster to Earth, the booster turned on its engines to slow its descent. The second stage, with the car and Starman, have one engine which it ignites as it proceeds to go further into space. The car and Starman continue into space. They pass Mars, and then the engine runs out of fuel and the second stage stops. And there is the planet Mars, sometimes called the Red Planet.
Why is it called the Red Planet, E?
Because Mars rocks are full of iron, and when iron rusts, it looks orange or red. Now the Tesla car and Starman start an orbit around the Sun. All of the planets that orbit the Sun stay in their own orbit. The Tesla car and Starman orbit the Sun, but its orbit cuts across Mars' orbit. The most important thing about Elon Musk's Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy is that they are reusable. As the boosters begin to return to Earth, they reignite their engines to slow their descent. Both boosters have grid fins which had been folded to the sides of the booster. As the boosters return to Earth, they unfold the grid fins to help maneuver the booster. The Falcon 9 has 4 grid fins, and the Falcon Heavy has 12.
What are grid fins, E? They look like the fins on a fish, E.
Yes, they do, but they are not solid. They are made with a grid.
What do you mean, grid, E?
A grid is made when you have straight lines that cross over some other straight lines. By making the fin with a grid, it makes the fin a lot lighter.
Ooh, E, look at that really big rocket.
That is Elon Musk's newest rocket called Super Heavy. Super Heavy carries a really large load in its second stage called Starship. Super Heavy has 4 grid fins, really large grid fins, but they are always extended. Super Heavy has 33 engines in its first stage, booster. These engines are much more powerful than the ones in the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. The second stage with Starship has 6 engines. When Super Heavy and Starship get above the Earth's atmosphere, Super Heavy shuts down its engines and disconnects from Starship. As Super Heavy starts to descend back to Earth, it reignites some of its engines to slow its descent. Super Heavy uses its very large grid fins to help steer Super Heavy. As the first stage of Super Heavy returns to Earth, the second stage, Starship, ignites its engines and continues on into space. Starship is so large it can carry many supplies and astronauts even to Mars. As Super Heavy gets close to where it was originally launched, 2 large mechanical arms called chopsticks reach out in mid-air and encircle Super Heavy. These mechanical arms or chopsticks help to protect Super Heavy so that it can be reused and relaunched. Elon Musk and SpaceX are still testing Super Heavy and Starship, so there may be changes made in the future. Here are Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, and Super Heavy all together to give you an idea of the difference in their sizes.
Why does Elon Musk want to build more powerful rockets, E?
Elon Musk wants to colonize Mars, so he needs more powerful rockets that can carry a lot of supplies and astronauts to Mars.
Mars? Why does Elon Musk want to colonize Mars, E?
Because space is the new frontier, and Elon Musk is a true pioneer of space.
I want to be a true pioneer of space also, E. I want to go to Mars.
Well, right now we have to go back to the planet Earth, but next time we go into space, we'll look at all the planets and especially the planet Mars.
Oh, look, there's our house. There's our house. Mama, I am going to be a space pioneer. Daddy, I'm going to Mars.
Uh-oh, I think I better leave now.
There he goes. Bye, E. Come back soon.